Hold up, did Jadakiss just throw Jim Jones into the lyrical dumpster and lock the lid shut? Say it ain't so. But oh, it absolutely is. Y'all, hip-hop just witnessed a digital decapitation and the blood trail is leading straight back to Harlem. You ever seen a grown man crumble on IG Live while still trying to flex? Yeah, that's the energy we're walking into. Because when the king of bars himself, Jadakiss, steps up to the mic and calls you a disgrace to real hip-hop, that's not just shade, that's a thunderstorm. With lightning, and hail, and a freestyle that hits harder than your entire last album. So what went down? Why is Jim out here spiraling into a PR meltdown while trying to sell himself as the new weatherman? Did he really think he could clown Nas, troll Styles P, and walk away untouched? Newsflash, this ain't Dipset's mixtape era anymore, and Twitter has receipts. Something tells us Jimmy bit off way more than he could chew on Jadakiss. Oh, he's serving karma cold with a mic in one hand and Harlem's rep in the other. Buckle up, because what's coming next? Phew, it's messier than Love and Hip Hop on reunion night. It was supposed to be just another day in hip hop. But what started as a casual interview turned into a full-blown firestorm when Jadakiss, the lyrical assassin himself, dropped a bomb so savage it sent shockwaves straight through Harlem. During a candid podcast appearance, Jadakiss didn't bite his tongue, didn't sugarcoat a thing. He looked dead into the camera and said what many had only whispered in private. Jim Jones is a disgrace to real hip-hop? Wait, what? That one sentence has done more damage to Jim's credibility than years of trolling ever could. And just like that, social media went into a frenzy. Twitter was in flames, Instagram Reels looped the quote like it was scripture, and YouTube reactors couldn't upload their takes fast enough. Jim, who's been out here trying to shake off the stains of reality TV and keep a toe in the rap game, suddenly found himself dragged by the very culture he claims to represent. And let's not act like this came out of nowhere. This wasn't some random shot fired in the dark. This was decades in the making. Jadakiss wasn't just throwing shade. He was pulling receipts and setting the record straight. People started revisiting old interviews, club videos, verses, and of course that now infamous Versus battle between the Lox and Dipset. Remember that? The one where Jim stumbled around like someone's uncle crashing the high school talent show, while Jadakiss delivered a masterclass in performance, breath control, and straight-up New York energy. Yeah, that Versus, the culture has not forgotten. That night didn't just expose Dipset, it humiliated them. And even after all this time, Jim hasn't lived it down. It's like every time he opens his mouth about hip-hop, someone in the room is thinking, bro, weren't you the guy panting into the mic while Jadakiss performed without even breaking a sweat? And let's not even get into his fashion crimes on that stage, because that's a separate indictment entirely. But now the disrespect isn't subtle, it's center stage. Jadakiss straight up gave him a lyrical no-confidence vote, and the timing couldn't be worse. Jim has been on this pseudo-redemption tour lately, hopping on podcasts, talking legacy, talking business, trying to act like he's the unsung hero of Dipset, who deserves more respect. But with this one call-out, that whole narrative crashed. Because when someone like Jadakiss talks, hip-hop listens. He's not one of these internet rappers with more followers than Barzi's built different. Jadakiss has credibility in the streets, in the booth, and in the boardroom, so when he says you're a disgrace to hip-hop, that's not just an opinion, that's a public execution. And the fans. Oh, the fans did what they do best: memes, remixes, and brutal TikToks. One clip had Jadakiss quote playing over the Titanic sinking. Another edited Jim's face onto a crying Jordan meme, performing at Versus while the Lox threw him lyrical body bags. This wasn't just trolling, this was cultural punishment. And Jim, he tried to clap back. He posted a few cryptic messages on Instagram, something about people throwing rocks from glass houses, some half-baked caption about real ones always being hated, but none of it hit, because no one believes it. The audience can smell desperation, and Jim's posts reeked of it. Worse, artists started to distance themselves. Collaborators who used to shout him out suddenly went quiet. No more Dipset appreciation posts. No more cosigns from up-and-coming rappers. One anonymous source even claimed Jim was quietly dropped from a planned summer tour lineup after promoters got spooked by all the negative press. That's how bad it's gotten. And now the industry is talking. There's whispers of Jim being blackballed, not officially, of course, because no one says it out loud, but the doors are closing. Playlists, he's missing. Festival invites, not showing up. And let's not forget the podcast rounds. Jim was supposed to appear on 3 major platforms this month alone. but 2 of them have already rescheduled indefinitely. You know what that means. And here's where it gets even wilder. Some sources are saying Jim is considering stepping away from music altogether. That's right, the backlash has hit so hard, so fast, and with such brutal precision, that he might just bow out. Think about that for a second. A man who once ran with the most iconic crew in Harlem, who gave us summer anthems and made ballin' a cultural mantra, now debating retirement. Because Jadakiss looked into a mic and called him a disgrace. And for some fans, it's not just funny, it's justice. There's always been this debate about what Jim actually contributed to the culture. Yes, he had hits. Yes, he had moments. But when you strip away the flashy videos and hype, what's really left? A few decent verses, an iconic ad-lib or 2. Or was it all smoke and mirrors, propped up by better lyricists and better beats? That's what the conversation has become. And Jadakiss just poured gasoline on it. And while Jim might want to paint this as just hate, the reality is more brutal. The culture has spoken. Hip-hop isn't forgiving. It builds you up, then dares you to slip. And when you do, it doesn't wait for your redemption. It writes you off and keeps moving. And right now, Jim Jones isn't just fighting for respect. He's fighting to stay relevant, to stay booked, to stay invited. Because if the streets don't believe in you, the industry won't either. And the worst part, even Jim knows it. And just when everyone thought Jim Jones might finally catch a break, another curveball came flying straight at his face. Because if the Jadakiss diss wasn't enough to knock the wind out of him, the streets decided to dig deeper. Way deeper. Anonymous insiders suddenly started leaking receipts. And oh boy. These weren't your regular petty tea spills, this was full-blown scalding hot espresso being dumped all over Jim's image. Allegedly, there's now footage floating around of Jim being denied entry to a private ROC Nation dinner twice. Imagine standing in a velvet suit with cameras around, and a security guy giving you the nod of shame. Apparently, Jay-Z's people didn't want any part of the love and hip-hop circus. As if that wasn't humiliating enough, rumors started to swirl that Dipset's bank accounts weren't exactly overflowing. One anonymous source, close to the crew, claimed Jim's been funding recent press stunts out of desperation, not legacy. According to this alleged source, Jimmy been paying blogs to keep him trending. Nobody checking for him unless he's beefing with someone actually relevant. Now that's the kind of backhanded shade that leaves scars. And the betrayal didn't stop there. A so-called close friend of Cameron reportedly said, off the record, that Cam has been distancing himself not just publicly but financially. Cam, been done with that dude. All that yelling and finger-pointing for clout. Nah, Cam focused on building his sports talk empire, not reviving a sinking ship, the source claimed. And let's not forget the Twitter sleuths, who claim they uncovered a shady pattern in Jim's investments. Word is, he allegedly blew 6 figures trying to push some crypto project that flopped harder than his freestyle attempt on Hot 97. People have been dragging his name through the mud, saying he's the kind of rapper who rants about real hip-hop, while posting Jim selfies and promoting knockoff energy drinks. But wait, there's more. A leaked group chat screenshot hit the forums where industry folks were straight up roasting him. One message said, "Somebody tell Jimmy it's not 2004 anymore." And another clown wrote, "He acting like he discovered the locks. Sit down, King." These aren't just trolls. These are insiders, allegedly people who've worked with him, performed beside him, and now laughing at his downfall in emoji-filled threads behind his back. But it doesn't stop with the industry shade. The fans have turned to social media platforms are flooded with clips of Jim's onstage rants, followed by brutal reaction videos from Gen Z creators who couldn't name 3 Dipset songs if their Wi-Fi depended on it. They're calling him Boomer Bars Jones and Jim Selfie Jimmy, mocking him for screaming about hip-hop honor while hopping on every podcast that'll give him a mic and a sip of water. TikTok users are even stitching his recent interviews with the words cringe level, expert flashing across the screen. And let's talk about that Breakfast Club appearance. People said Jim looked like he was about to cry when Charlemagne read Jadakiss's quote aloud. He tried to laugh it off, but the energy in the room dipped colder than a January morning in Harlem. Fans zoomed in on his face, analyzing every blink like it was part of some psychological breakdown. "That man's soul left the chat," one user commented. And when Angela Yee mentioned that maybe Jim's legacy was always tied to louder voices, woo, talk about shade without sunscreen. The conspiracy theories are flying now. Some are saying this whole thing was orchestrated to set Jim up. that maybe Jadakiss's disgrace line was just the final bullet in a long setup. Industry execution. Some even believe a major label exec got tired of Jim trying to force his way into relevance and gave the green light to let him spiral. Of course, there's no proof, just vibes and chaos, but that's never stopped the internet before. And now, there's talk of a cease and desist flying around. Supposedly, Jim's team tried to silence some blogs reporting on his financial troubles and alleged label drama, but all that did was add fuel to the fire. Bloggers started digging deeper, pulling up IRS documents, failed LLC filings, and claims of bounced checks from tour appearances that never happened. The more his team tried to clamp down, the louder the internet screamed. Screenshots are circulating of emails allegedly sent by his camp, demanding takedowns, but it's too late. The narrative has legs now, and it's sprinting. The public wants blood, or at least an apology, and Jimmy, he's hiding behind PR statements and carefully cropped Instagram posts showing positivity while the comment sections are eating him alive. This isn't just a bad press cycle. This is a reputation unraveling at warp speed. And somewhere in the middle of all this, Jadakiss is chilling, posting cryptic laughing emojis and letting the world draw their own conclusions. Meanwhile, fans are now comparing Jim Jones to a parody version of his former self, someone who talks the talk but fumbles when asked to walk that lyrical walk. And just as the internet thought they'd seen the last of the madness, another shocking twist surfaced that left everyone wide-eyed and breathless. And just when you thought the chaos had peaked, it got worse, way worse. See, while Jim Jones was still busy trying to convince his inner circle that Jadakiss's comments were just hater talk, word started circulating that some of Jim's own people, yes, the ones closest to him, had been feeding the media. Allegedly, someone leaked a clip of Jim rehearsing a diss track against Jadakiss and forgetting half his own lyrics midway. The audio quality was trash, the bars were weaker than a watered-down soda, and to make it worse, the footage showed Keith pacing around the studio muttering, "This gone shut him up," only for the internet to laugh him out the room. The memes didn't wait. Twitter turned it into a TikTok sound overnight. And what was Jadakiss doing? Sitting back, sipping tea, or maybe cognac, smiling in a fresh leather coat with real hip-hop embroidered on the back, while fans chanted his name like he'd just knocked somebody out at Summer Jam. The public perception wasn't just leaning, it was full-on collapsing. Hip-hop OGs who used to nod politely at Jim's grind were now posting cryptic captions like "Can't fake, flavor and legacy don't lie." It wasn't just shade, it was a full eclipse. Meanwhile, record label whispers began to grow. Industry execs reportedly backed out of negotiations for a rumored documentary Jim was planning about his influence in hip-hop. One exec allegedly said, "We were considering it until the culture disowned him overnight. That hurt, but it didn't stop there." Rumors erupted that Jadakiss had been approached for the same project, except now he was being pitched as the hero who survived the shiny suit era, battled against the best, and still came out respected. And guess what? He was reportedly considering it, with producers allegedly offering him full creative control. That kind of irony doesn't just stint, it scorches. Jim, facing this rising tide of humiliation, attempted a Hail Mary. He went on IG Live for an hour, trying to break it all down, trying to reclaim his narrative. But it only made things worse. He was emotional, scattered, bouncing from topics like studio politics to Harlem real estate to haters never wanting to see you win. At one point, he even brought up loyalty and claimed, "I was loyal to hip-hop before some of these dudes even had a name." Except people didn't buy it anymore. The comments were brutal. "You loyal to what? Rapping offbeat. Bro still yelling like he battling a microwave." And the cherry on top, viewers clipped one moment where Jim said, "I built the culture," and looped it with Jadakiss laughing. It went viral. Overnight. Again, that's when the legal chaos started. Allegedly, Def Squad Promotions, a side label attached to a promotional tour Jim had signed on to, pulled out of his contract, citing brand misalignment. Translation: "You're too messy now." Meanwhile, reports swirled that Jim's PR team was in shambles, with his lead publicist allegedly resigning quietly the same week, refusing to answer any press inquiries. All the while, Jim kept pushing forward, doubling down, releasing lukewarm tracks on SoundCloud, trying to prove he still had bars, but the listens weren't matching the hype. You can't fight a narrative when the streets already picked a side. But here's where it gets Shakespearean. A ghostwriter, yes, an alleged ghostwriter who used to work behind the scenes for both artists, came forward, anonymously claiming, Jim ain't been the same since Jada flamed him at Versus. That battle bruised his ego so bad, he's been trying to recover ever since. If that's true, then this Jadakiss statement wasn't the start, it was the fatal blow. People started combing through old footage, dissecting every bar from the Versus showdown, labeling Jim's entire set as the beginning of the end. It became a cautionary tale: don't challenge the culture unless you're built to withstand the backlash. But still, even with all this unfolding like a slow train wreck, Jim didn't bow out. He showed up to a podcast the following week wearing sunglasses indoors, blaming algorithm hate and calling the culture ungrateful. It was sad. Not because he was wrong, but because he sounded defeated even when he tried to sound defiant. Jadakiss, on the other hand, didn't even address him directly anymore. He simply posted a photo from the studio with the caption, "Still cookin'." No mention, no names, just dominance. And the fans ate it up. Hip-hop forums labeled Jada the last of a dying breed, an MC who doesn't need antics to remain iconic. Meanwhile, Jim was trending for all the wrong reasons. Again, and now there's serious talk that Jim might be stepping away from music entirely. Anonymous sources close to his camp claim he's considering new ventures outside of rap, maybe fashion or podcasting. But after this much public collapse, who's really checking? In an era where perception is currency, Jim's balance just hit overdraft. His legacy isn't ruined, but it's bruised, dragged through the mud, and now permanently tangled in one of the most lopsided beefs hip-hop's seen in years. It's not about who had the flashiest chain or the loudest verse, it's about who had the respect. And when Jadakiss said Jim Jones was a disgrace to real hip-hop, he didn't just throw shade, he cast a shadow long enough to swallow Jim's entire narrative. Whether you believe it or not, the culture has decided. And for Jim, that might be the hardest pill to swallow. If you thought this drama was wild, just wait, because the receipts keep piling and the mess is far from over. You've just witnessed one of the most chaotic lyrical takedowns and public meltdowns hip-hop has seen in a while. And trust me, this is only the beginning. If you're here for the real tea, the unfiltered breakdowns, and the stories no one else is bold enough to touch, then you're in the right place. Go ahead and hit that like button if you're loving the deep dives. And don't forget to subscribe with the bell turned on so you never miss an update when the next bombshell drops. I want to hear what you think. Was Jim Jones in over his head from the jump? Did Jadakiss bury the beef once and for all? Or is this just round one of something way bigger? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's get this conversation started. And remember, whether it's behind the mic, in the courtroom, or on the timeline, we've got you covered with every twist, turn, and exposed receipt. So stay locked in, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one.